So welcome everyone. Welcome to Face University Presents Learn About Money Skills. This is going to be presented by Esther Castillo and our FACE vision is when families and communities thrive, every learner thrives. So we have our four core beliefs. All parents have dreams for their children and want the best for them. All parents have the capacity to support their children's learning. Parents and school staff should be equal partners. The responsibility for building partnerships between school and home rests primarily with school staff, especially school leaders. So our norms are respect and trust, listen to one another, withhold judgment, and create a safe space to share. Everyone's voice matters. Pause, allow all to contribute, and value each person's wisdom. Different opinions are welcome. Share openly and stay open to others, even when we disagree. Supportive sharing. Offer advice only when asked and honor parenting struggles with compassion. Withhold personally identifiable information such as birthday, address, school, and phone number. And you can contact us here at our Face University website. So we will now go to our presentation. So I'm going to transfer this over to you, Esther.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. We are going to put a pause on interpretation in Spanish tonight. So sorry if you're here for Spanish. We do have a recording that we can share at the end of this if we don't get it running, but I'm going to keep trying to work on it now and I'll let you know if we can get that channel going. Thanks, everybody.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, we do. Thank you,
Okay.
Esther.
Perfect. Thank you. And well, as Mark has already mentioned, I am Esther Castillo Lerma, and I am the founder of Info Central and have been in the financial services industry for now over 25 years. I'm also a licensed mortgage loan officer and a life insurance producer. And we'll be reviewing the very basics of financial literacy, the 5 steps to financial wellness, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, which are awareness, foundation, strategic plan, consistency, review, and adjust. And we will also be reviewing the first 2 areas of El Cucurucho, which is the financial nest. And the 2 areas are budgeting and cash flow and credit and debt management. Because of our time constraints, we'll focus mostly on credit and not debt management this evening. All right, so let's get started. With this, on this particular slide, you'll see that I have listed some statistics, and this answers the question of why does financial literacy matter? Because it's not just numbers, it's stability, confidence, and opportunity for our families. Colorado ranks among the worst states for saving money. Between high living costs and growing debt, many families are just trying to stay afloat. And that's why learning to manage money to manage money effectively and differently can change everything. In a recent study, folks over 50 years of age, of those folks that participated in the study, 75% stated that they could cover a $2,000 emergency without tapping into their retirement savings, which is great. However, how many emergencies are over $2,000, right? I had a car repair work recently that was over $2,000, and my father had something happened to a sewer line, and that was $20,000 as an emergency. 54% of Americans have less than 3 months savings for an emergency, and the recommended savings that you should have or shoot for is 3 to 6 months of your income for an emergency. And 54% of Americans have less than 3 months of that savings. More than a third of Americans had to tap into their emergency savings in the past year. So these are real things that are happening on a daily basis with folks. Now, as parents, we are the major influencer of our children. And whether we like it or not, our kids see what we do, right? I know my kids are watching everything I do, and they remember. They watch us like hawks. They remember, and then they remind you of the things you did, right? So as parents, we want to say, or not say, do what I say, not what I do, but try to be congruent in doing and saying. Financial literacy can also protect you from becoming a victim of financial fraud. And as stated here, the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, reported 34% of Americans were victims of fraud or a scam in the last 12 months. And this was just reported in March of 2025. So when we learn about financial concepts, we become more aware and make better decisions. And when we're not stressed, we are happier and have better interactions with others. So financial literacy doesn't just help our pocketbook, but our whole being and relationships. And there is good news too. In Colorado, House Bill 25192 is making financial literacy a mandatory requirement to graduate. So that will be in 27-28 school year. When we talk about numbers, finances, bills, or money, it can be very overwhelming and stressful at times. So my recommendation is that you start with gratitude always. Financial wellness is just as important to us as individuals and families as is our physical and emotional health. So it's important to recognize it and take the time to work through it. And these are the 3 steps that I recommend. First is to be thankful. We get so focused on where we'd like to be, or maybe of what's going on, that we forget to appreciate where we are right now and what brought us here. And we have the power to change our circumstances or to keep them if they're working for us. Second is to create a sacred space or an intentional space, because we give financial wellness the importance that it merits. I like to, have the area where I'm working clean, not full of clutter, so that I don't get distracted. I like to set the ambiance with a candle or maybe a special lamp, coffee or tea, whatever suits you, and that the space is created for you to be able to focus. If you're doing finances with the family, maybe it's at the kitchen table, or if it's in, just you and the numbers, or you and your partner in the numbers, then, to make sure you have that space and that time to work on it. And then also set aside a specific time, because again, it's like when we go to the doctor, you want to set a time to say from 9 to 10 is my appointment. And that's the same thing with finances. Just try to set a time, like on a Saturday morning, and say, at 9 a.m. I'll work on it. And if you're like me, I like to work in littler spurts, like 30 minutes, and then take a break, and then another 30 minutes to take a break. Some people can go for an hour, 2 hours, whatever works best for you, just to make sure that you have given it that time of importance. All right, so any financial plan always starts with the B word, and the B word in this case is budgeting. So we're going to review the 50-30-20 rule, how to start a budget, and the budgeting quadrants. So the 50-30-20 rule is one of the more popular ways to look at your money. And it's a simple way to start creating a balance with your finances. What this rule says is that of your income, so if you're W-2 or looking at your net income, if you're a self-employed or a contractor, we're going to look at your adjusted gross income. So that would be your income after your expenses. And 50% of your income should go to cover your needs. Now, your needs, such as rent, groceries, utilities, gasoline, medicine, things that you can't live without. 30% of your income would be allotted to your wants, and those are things that make life more enjoyable, such as eating out, the movies, any type of entertainment, hobbies. The gym membership might be a want as well. And 20% of your income goes towards savings and or debt repayment. Savings is what builds your financial foundation. And so you always want to have some amount of your income go into that. Now, this rule is not the only way to budget, but it is a good starting point. There are other methods that are quite common, such as zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is where you track every single penny, and every single penny has a purpose to do something in your budget. And that's very intentional. It's a little bit more tedious because you want to make sure you account for every penny. Pay yourself first method is where first you take an amount to save, and then you deal with the rest of your budget. So that's savings, or focused on savings. There's the 80-20 rule, where 80% goes to all your expenses and 20% of your income goes to savings. And then there's the envelope system, which I really like. It's very helpful, especially if you use cash a lot. And what you do is you assign envelopes. So like, let's say one envelope for groceries, one for gasoline, one for rent or mortgage, one for entertainment. And so what you do is you put cash, or you set a specific amount for that envelope. And so like if you said, here's $500 this month for groceries, and after that 500 is gone, that's it, no more. So it makes you be very disciplined about your spending and very intentional with it. So that's a different system, and you can kind of combine systems, whatever works for you. But these are some of the more common ones that we see and that people prefer. And one more thing about the envelope system, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, is when you're working with cash, you just got to make sure that you also track your receipts. Okay, and I'll touch on that here shortly. Budgeting is really quite simple because you're looking at income, what comes in and what goes out, right? And then you subtract what goes out from what comes in, and voila, you have a number. And it may not feel like it's that simple, right? And it gets complicated because a lot of times we have a lot of transactions. So my recommendation is that you go back 3 months. If you use the bank primarily for your transactions, then go back, get 3 months bank statements, and go through every single entry, right? Every single one. And then if you see what your activity is over 3 months, you'll get a more realistic picture of what's going on, because maybe 1 month you had car repairs that you had to deal with. Maybe another one, it was school supplies, right? So it gives you a longer period of time, and that way you get a more accurate picture of what your budget really looks like over the course of the year. If you use cash, again, start saving your cash receipts in a jar, and you can use an envelope for this. Some people like to carry a notebook and just track expenses, writing them down. And again, you want to do this ideally over 3 months, but at least a month if you're using cash. And the goal with this activity is to build awareness, to see what really is going on. Where is my money going every month? But once you have awareness and you see where your money is really going, then that's the first step to creating a plan that really does work for you, and finding a method like the 50-30-20 rule that might work for you. And once you have that clarity, you're working on your foundation, and we have the tools and resources available to share with you. And then we can go into a simple budgeting worksheet. So this particular worksheet we can share with you if you put in the chat that you'd like a copy of it. I also have an Excel Excel worksheet that's a little bit more detailed. But this is an example of one, and it's from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a government website. And it's a general budgeting worksheet. So on the left column, you'll see, the month of whatever. So like, let's say the month of October, and you are going to write in your income from your job, any government program, disability benefits, financial support, and other type of income. So it could be like, well, I have a side hustle and I have income coming in. On the right side is going to be all your spending. So it goes from housing, utilities, groceries, medical or health expenses, transportation, education and childcare, cell phone, internet cable, your pets, because those fluffy pets are going to be expensive, right? And your debt payments, and then you have other spending. So again, this is pretty general. And what I see personally is that I would add more categories, right? I would add more, such as savings. I would put one for insurance, like health, auto, life insurance. My son gets a stipend for spending since he's in high school. So I'd put a little category for that. I'd also put a category for house maintenance and repairs, one for entertainment, one for contributions and donations. So again, you're going to take this as a skeleton and then add whatever is going to work for you. Okay. And at the bottom, then it says build your budget. Total income minus total spending is your budget, is your money that you have left over. And with that money, then you can decide whether it's going to go to savings, or maybe it's to pay off debt, or to create another savings for something particular, like a vacation or something like that. And if you see that your expenses are greater than your income, then you're able to say which category is the one that's affecting you, right? Where is my money going? And then you make changes from there. So one of the things that you may notice is recurring charges, or maybe charges that you weren't even aware of. Like, I didn't know I had this subscription, right? Unauthorized charges that you can dispute with your bank. If you share your debit card with somebody else, then you might, have a something that you would have to discuss of like, what is this expense, or why are we spending this much on this, right? So the point here again is to be aware of what really goes on in your budget and how you can tweak it to work better for you. I know about a year ago when I was going through my budget, I noticed a bunch of recurring subscriptions, just things that I had forgotten that I even signed up for, and then I signed up for an annual renewal. So then I was able to cancel some of them, and some of them I just put on my calendar to cancel before they renewed again. So again, it's building awareness, and then you can adjust from there. So again, because this can get overwhelming, and if you have a lot of transactions, it can take time. Let us know if you want this sent to you, or the Excel one, and we're happy to do that. Now we'll go over the quadrants. What are quadrants? Quadrants, again, are to help you categorize your spending. So needs, just to review again, needs are things that are essential to survival. So that's rent, your mortgage, utilities, which are, electricity, water, groceries, transportation, insurance premiums, medicine or prescriptions could be there. And some people would say, hey, the gym is an absolute need, because I need that to have my personal time, or I'm working on my health or something like that. That's going to be your decision as a family or as an individual to distinguish that. But generally that goes in wants, not in under needs. Okay. But wants are going to be anything that makes life more enjoyable. So eating out, entertainment, streaming services, vacations, hobbies. And again, here you have to decipher which ones are really wants and what are needs, and where are areas that you can cut some if there's too many expenses. And I'll give you an example. When I started working in financial services back in the year 2000, I had a financial needs analysis done, and I had to lower my expenses because I had been working as a paralegal, where I was working and getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. And I went to straight commission in financial services. So that meant I had a big fat income of zero. So I had a truck, and I went and traded it in, got a car, saved $200 a month there, saved on fuel. And I was able to do that because I distinguished that a truck was a want, not a need. I could have a more economical vehicle. So again, that's just a personal experience. It worked for my budget, and they're just ideas for you to work on yours. Okay, the third quadrant is savings. And this is a very important portion of your income, because it's setting up your foundation, and it's also setting up future financial goals. And it's the most crucial step for building financial security and wealth. So if you don't have any income allotted for savings, this would be a great place to start. And the emergency fund is one of the basics that we recommend all the time for people to save 3 months ideally work up to 6 months of your income because, again, in an emergency, you want to be able, like, let's say you got sick, you're in an accident or something, you have 3 months of income to cover your base, your family, and not be in a horrible predicament. And sometimes you have to just, again, go through your wants and figure out what you can cut and how. And sometimes this may be like the time to call your agent, your insurance agent, say, how can I cut this expense? What can I adjust in coverage? Or you may have to shop around a little bit. So it prompts that discussion for your family, and it also helps you look into different things that you might not have thought of. Okay, but that's the goal there. Now, if saving 3 months of income is too big of a goal, just start with, let me save up 1 month of income. Just save towards something, because the whole point of this is just to get started if you haven't already. And then the fourth quadrant is the quadrant of giving. A lot of the rules or the methods, such as the 50-30-20 model, they don't include a quadrant for giving, but more and more are including it now. And this allows you to intentionally budget for generosity. We're not in this life alone, so incorporating giving into your budget keeps us grounded, aware of our neighbors. It cultivates empathy and community, and it also creates conscious and compassionate kids. I always have a tagline on my stuff that says, Juntos abarcamos más. That means together we do more, we reach more, and we create a bigger impact. So you can do something simple like donate to your church, donate to your charitable organization, causes you care about. And if you absolutely say, I cannot find any money to give away because I'm working on my own savings and my own budgeting, that's fine. You can try to find a different way to share. And this is something basic like volunteering, helping a neighbor, or the senior citizen down the street. You can, buy extra bananas and oranges and then drop them off for that person. Point is just to create something where you're sharing, because as we share, more comes back to us, right? My father is 83 and he goes to the grocery store oftentimes alone. And it happens so often now that he's used to it. But when he's in the cashier line for paying, people behind him go and just pay his groceries. And so when it first started happening, he was a little like a complaint, saying a complaint. He's like, do I really look that old? And I'm like, well, Father, you are 83 years old. So I think your age does show. And he was a little embarrassed when that happened, but now he's just thankful. And I think that most people that are paying for his groceries, they're probably just reminded of their own grandpa or their dad. And so it's a full circle where they're helping him and he's helping them by creating a beautiful memory. So again, there are different ways that you can give. All right. Whenever we talk about credit, we have to talk about the 4-letter word. And the 4-letter word in this case is risk. It's the scary R word. And why? Because this is very important to understand, because then it makes sense as to why credit is so important. So what risk is the level or likelihood of a borrower's potential for default. Okay. Since, let's say, for example, that you're walking down the street, somebody that you don't know, a complete stranger, comes up and says, hey, lend me $100 and we'll meet here in a month. I promise I'll be right at this corner in a month and I'll pay you back your $100. What is the most likely response you're going to give? Like, no way. You'll probably just run right from that person, because you don't know them. You don't know their history. You don't have anybody to vouch for them, and you're not going to risk losing that money. Well, it's very similar to what the bank says. So the bank doesn't know the person, but they measure the risk by the credit history and also the FICO score. Okay. So what we want to do is just learn some very, very basic things about credit. And so first one is credit bureaus. There are 3 main credit bureaus that monitor your credit, and that's Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. If you have an app through your bank that says, do you want to monitor your credit, probably one of these three big companies are the ones that are monitoring it. And then there are scoring models. So the most common one is FICO score. And the other big one is Vantage. And there are a ton other ones, but we'll only focus today on the FICO score. But just know that there are different scoring models, and we'll focus today on the FICO. So why do I need a FICO score? Well, a FICO score is very important because if you go apply for a job, such as me in finances, if you're handling money like at the banks, casinos, you're working in some security jobs, management, some law firms, government jobs, they're going to want you to demonstrate your financial responsibility and trustworthiness. And that's how you show it, is through your credit. The cost of buying is also majorly influenced by your score, because the lower your score, the higher rate you're going to pay. So it'll cost you more in the end. Insurance premiums, a lot of auto insurance is they check your credit real quick to see what your rate's going to be. Of course, when you go apartment shopping, they're going to check your credit most likely. And of course, in a mortgage, when you're buying a house, that's the most important thing. It's critical. And you could be denied just based on your credit score. There's more credit options that open up to you, like if you have a business, then maybe you'll have more loan options to get started or to borrow money to grow your business. And how do I get a FICO score? Well, the best way you can do this if you don't have any credit is to get a credit card. And if you do have credit, sometimes by working on your credit, it'll help you increase your score. So a credit card is the best way to start your credit. No, an auto loan is never the best way to start your credit, because auto loans are installment loans. So you have, let's say, a $20,000 car loan, and every month you're making a payment, and it's going down every month, little by little. It's not doing anything other than going down and reporting a positive payment. However, in a credit card, it's called revolving debt. And that means, like, let's say you get a $5,000 credit card, you owe $4,000, you pay $1,000. Now you immediately paid $1,000. Now you have $2,000 to borrow again. So it revolves. So as soon as you pay it, it's immediately available to you again, right? And so that's reporting every month. And usually every month you're going to have a different balance, a different payment that was made, either a bigger, a smaller one. And when you have a credit card, you want to put it on automatic payment. That's what I would highly recommend, so that you don't have any late payments. If you put it on automatic payment, then you're guaranteed that the minimum payment at least is going to be paid every month. You can always go in and pay more, but you want to not miss any payments. And if you have available to you, one of the greatest ways to create a FICO score and bump it up a lot is getting added as a co-signer to somebody's card that has excellent credit history, high limit, low balance, and that it's been open for a year or more. And so I see this a lot with husbands and wives, helping each other out with credit, parents and children, family members usually. So when my oldest son turned 18, I added him to a few of my credit cards. And within a month, 30 days, he had better FICO score than I did. So it works. It works. And if you do it on your own, without anybody adding you to a cosign or anything like that, it usually takes 3 to 6 months to report to credit. And if you get added, it only takes 30 days. Okay. And remember, you don't want to get added to anybody's credit card that doesn't have good payment history, because then all the negative credit history will go onto your credit as well, and that will defeat the purpose. So make sure that they are a good risk as well. All right, so how is a FICO score made? It's made up of 5 different areas, and the most important, like I already mentioned, is 35% of your score. So again, set up auto payment. One late payment can bring your score down 100 points, and it'll take about a year to recuperate. So it's really important not to be late on your payments. Automatic payments coming out of your account is the best way to go. 30% is made up by your balances. So the recommended is to keep 30% of the credit limit. So if you have $1,000 limit on your Kohl's card, use $300 and then pay it off or pay it down. And that'll keep your FICO score increased. If you max out your cards, like I was given 1,000 credit limit and I owe 1,000 or more, your FICO score will drop. 15% is made up of your length of credit history. So the longer you have a credit card, the more credit depth you have. And so again, that's why you want to keep your credit cards open. Even if you pay them off and say you haven't used them in a little bit, then don't close them. Just keep using them every few months. That way you keep some activity going and you don't have the creditor close the credit cards on you. 10% is new credit. So generally the rule of thumb is that you have 45 days, 30 to 45 days within which to request credit from multiple sources. So, when you buy a car, sometimes the car dealer will say, we'll find the financing for you. And they check your credit with 10 different dealers or 10 different lenders. And that's not horrible as long as you do it within a 30-day window or 45-day window. If you're doing, I shopped for an auto loan in March, and then in May, I went and shopped for a home. And then in July, I went and opened some credit cards. Then that's where you'll see that your credit score is dropping because you're checking too much, getting too much new credit. And then the other 10% is going to be your credit mix. So you want to have like a personal loan, credit cards, car loan, mortgage loan. But just the base, have 3 to 5 credit lines. Most of those can be credit cards. That's fine. Several years of credit history. And that should help you get a good FICO score. FICO scores range from anywhere from 350 to 850. Obviously, 350 is the lowest and 850 is the highest. I'll tell you that the 800s are very codicized. There are not that many people in the 800s. And the biggest bulk is probably going to be in the middle. They're in the 680 range. And what you want to shoot for is to be 740 or above. That will allow you more financing options, better rates, and ideally you want to be in the 700s if possible. Now, you don't need a 740 score in order to buy something, but just know that if you have let's say a 580 FICO score, it's going to cost you more. The cost of buying is going to impact you there. Okay, now let's move on to the financial wellness framework. There is a financial literacy series called El Cucurucho, which is the financial nest. And basically, this is the financial wellness framework. What we're doing is creating awareness, as I mentioned, because we're being realistic about what is happening in our budget, where our money is going. And from there, we're working the foundation, which is using your tools and resources, your different methods, right, to figure out a budget so that we can come to a strategic plan. What do I want to do with my budget? Do I want to set some goals for savings? Do I want to eliminate debt? What are my goals, right? You set a strategic plan, and then you're going to do that on a consistent basis. A consistent basis because you have to commit to doing something for a period of time, right? And you may need an accountability partner at this point to say, hey, you said you were going to do this, and I don't see you doing that. You're spending the money that you said you weren't going to spend. So it's good to have an accountability partner in this part of the framework. And then you're going to review and adjust depending on your goals. Maybe that would be every month, right? Or maybe every 3 months that you're going to review your plan, how it's going, and it may need to adjust. So for example, let's say you said, I want to pay off this card, and you're using the snowball method to pay off that card, and you paid it off in 2 months. So then, you're like, oh, great, I have an extra X amount of dollars now, then I can do something else, either save it or attack a debt, whatever your plan may dictate. So this cycle keeps repeating itself because we're going to keep going on. remember that finances are not meant to be stable. They evolve and they change just as life does, because life changes. So then you have to adjust. Maybe you started out as a just a one person household, and now you have a partner, you have a family, or maybe you're retiring, maybe you have a new pet, and so you have different things happening at all times. And this is the cucurucho, the financial nest. So if you'd like to look at the whole series, these are the workshops that are available. Budgeting and cash flow. We look at your real numbers, and this is a very personal workshop where we can look at your specific numbers, how money flows in and out, your spending habits, and we review the topics of consumerism. And then savings, we look at long-term savings and the emergency fund, which I've already mentioned. We review your goals for savings. We look at the rule of 72, high yield savings account, and ways to get to your goals and make your money grow. Then there's credit and debt management, which credit I've touched on. Debt management is, like I mentioned, there's the snowball method, the avalanche, different ways of eliminating debt, or maybe handling collections, or maybe credit repair. And then there's taxes and record keeping, because you have to look at the systems that you have in place and maybe look at different tax strategies to help keep more money in your pocket. Staying organized is very helpful for future planning for business ownership and home ownership. And then we're looking at legacy and community wealth. That's looking at the questions of, like, what do you want to leave your family and your loved ones as your legacy? What do you have in place, or what would you like to see? And how are you contributing to something bigger together with your community? The financial mindset is we take a really deep dive into your patterns, your habits, and your beliefs about money. And we rewrite your money story. So this is the core of the cucurucho, because mindset is what everything else builds on. This is a really fun workshop. We look at your team as well, because your team are your supporters, right? We can't go on this journey of financial wellness alone. And they're integral players to a team that supports you. Who are they? And then we can also offer you connections. Home ownership and housing stability is the greatest asset most of us will ever own, is our home. And whether we own it or rent it, in this particular workshop or this session, we talk about building housing stability, preparing to buy a home, or investing in property, how to stay in your home, improving and protecting the place that you call home now. Insurance and protection is protecting your income, your family's well-being in case something unexpected happens. We also explore how to safeguard what matters to you most, which is your family, your home, and your assets. I bring in attorneys to talk about probate matters, power of attorneys, and different legal documents that could help you there. And income and career growth. We look at, side hustles. Are you happy where you're at in your career? Do you need an upskill or reskill? Do you want to go ahead and launch that business you've always been eyeing, or that little side hustle you've been eyeing for a while? So there's always room to grow. A strong financial nest comes from gratitude, intention, and giving your money what it deserves, the attention it deserves. And oops, sorry, that was the wrong one. We move on to this one. And then we move on to kids and finances. So once we start treating money with intention and gratitude, we also are teaching our kids how to handle money with intention and gratitude. Here are some tips on talking to your kids about money. Oops, sorry about that. Oh, clicked one too quickly. Family involvement. My recommendation is to make finances a shared family topic instead of keeping it something secret or stressful. Again, set a regular time to review money, and talk openly about money with the kids. Let them ask questions and answer as honestly as you can. I know not everything can be discussed, and age has a lot to do with it. Are they 2, or are they 10, or are they 15 or 18? but use examples and just talk about it to where it's not something stressful. Model healthy money behavior. Avoid arguing at all costs about money in front of kids because you don't want them to get a bad impression about money, and then they're going to be scared of it down the road. Let them see positive habits such as budgeting, saving, tracking expenses. So one of the simple topics, like with my kid, that we talked about when the express lane came to be on I-70, is that we take it only when we have to absolutely take it because we're running late, because it's an extra expense, and that's part of finances, right? That's a part that goes into the budget. Or sometimes it's like, well, we only have one meal to go out this week versus all week, and we're going to eat leftovers and we'll eat at home. And again, that's mentioning money because we need to be realistic about how expensive it is to eat out, right? Hands-on activities. For little kids, sometimes a piggy bank works, where they can save their coins. When it's age appropriate, you can accompany them to open a bank account and teach them to set goals, short-term and long-term goals. My son, he's now, my little one's 14, and he opened his checking, savings, a CD, and I had a piggy bank for him to save money, but he preferred to stash it in a box or an envelope and then hide it. And he had his secret hiding place. And also he got to pick, instead of a piggy bank, he wanted a box. So that's just something that, again, it gives them ownership of their money and how they want to handle it. And that way they're taking responsibility for it, which then brings us to earning and responsibility. Some families like to pay for kids to do chores or to give them allowances. And this is great because it can teach them responsibility in money management. It's not for everybody. And again, you'll find the way to best handle it with your family. Introduce financial concepts gradually. Every kid, it is going to be at a different stage. So maybe when they're little, they're going to save for a toy. And when they're bigger, they might want to save for a computer. They can help you more with family, tracking family expenses. So we always want to celebrate small wins. Always encourage and celebrate kids when they're building good habits. Don't scold them when they make a mistake, because again, it's leaving them with a sour taste in their mouth about money. And I'll give you an example. My son, when he started high school, he really went over the top with spending that first month. And it was a big eye-opener for him. I was aware of the mistakes he was making, but I let him make the mistakes so that he would learn on his own how quickly money is spent. And so he dipped from his checking account into his savings account, which for him was really terrible. And so immediately thereafter, he learned his lesson and curbed his spending, by 90%. It was incredible, but he was able to see the mistake that he made on his own. So that's not to say that you have to let your kids make that mistake, but it's ways of you engaging with them to help them learn more about money and not have a terrible experience with it. And instead, have them take baby steps and learn along with you. So I think that's all I've got. Thank you very much for your time for today. And there's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. Again, if you'd like a copy of the budget worksheet or the Excel spreadsheet, we're happy to send that over. And I think we are going to do a wrap.
Yeah. Well, first, let me open it up. If anyone has questions, feel free to share out. And
Yeah, I believe Amy Ramos had a question. Is a still considered a budget is a still considered a budget if the expenses outnumber the income or lead to a zero or negative balance at the end of the month? Or is it called a budget just because you jot it down and keep track of it?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Amy. A budget in essence is the tracking of the expenses. That's the actual budget. When you create a budget that works for your family, that's when you're going into the numbers and seeing what do I need to do? Where do I need to tweak it? So budgeting tool would be like the budget worksheet, but actually creating a budget and creating a plan is the budgeting act, right? So what you want to do is go through your budget that you currently have and then tweak it to make it work better for your case, for your family.
And thank you. And Amy also had another question. And she says, if you're not in the place where you need to show your credit score, like you're not looking for a house or a car loan, for example, can you put off prioritizing your debtors? I want to know what is recommended, she says.
Okay, excellent question. You know, if you don't need to do anything with finances at this moment and you have to put them off, then that's something that you should, definitely look into. You can go to annualcreditreport.com and get a free copy of your credit report to see what is on there. And I believe they offer an option to check your score as well. And I would highly recommend to do that, at least once a year, so you can go in and see what's going on and maybe something popped up again that's not yours. And absolutely, because debt, sometimes you're in too much debt and it doesn't make sense to pay everything back. That's why bankruptcy is an option. It all depends on where you're at, Amy, personally. I'd be more than happy to look at something more on a personal level with you and see if there are different ways that you can strategize to eliminate that debt, or maybe you'd have to go with somebody to get on a consultation about specific debt. So you have to make that call for your own family. And I want to say that one of the best ways to approach lenders or creditors is to communicate, depending where you're at. If you say, hey, something happened, like I had an emergency, usually when you call and communicate with creditors and tell them this is what happened, what are my options to delay the payments for a couple months, then a lot of lenders and a lot of creditors will say, hey, you can do this. We'll forgive it for 2 months, or we'll add it to the balance, but we'll let it slide for 2 months, and then you have to catch up at 2 months. So be sure to be communicating with your creditors and seeing what options they can offer you as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Esther. And we can probably do a wheel spin here, though 7 people are under Jasmine Rigby, so it might be a little confusing here.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can put your name in the chat, we will include you in this giveaway. We also do have a closing survey. It is in the chat. It will also be emailed out. Let Esther know of what else you want to learn about money. If we have enough people interested in a topic, we'd love to come back and offer more information.
Okay.
And if not, be looking out for our other FACE universities. If you're signed up for our Read and Rise program happening throughout November, we'll look forward to seeing you there. If not, our next session will be on substance abuse and violence prevention on December 9th. Everyone that attends will receive a $25 gift card. So that is a really great partnership opportunity if you want to make a little bit of money to help with that debt. Make sure to join us online. And we'll get that raffle, or I'm sorry, I should say giveaway ready.
Yeah, sorry, it's a giveaway.
Okay, I think I have everyone except for probably 2 Jasmine Rigbys.
Go ahead and read off all of the names, Mark. And if you do
Wanda,
not hear,
here we go. Okay.
and would like to be included, make sure you share your name out. But Mark,
Sure.
let's confirm we have everybody.
Okay, so I have Amy Ramos, Christine, Damita, Jennifer Campbell, Reiko J, Sarah Shorey, Nadine Addis, Joel Jr., Kelly B, Dana Jiang, and Wanda F. Let me see. Oh, is it Brooklyn J? Let's see. That's the one that I was looking for. Brooklyn J. Okay, I think I got everybody. Okay, so I'm
Awesome.
going to share my screen. One sec. And Esther, if you could just stop sharing and I can share now.
Oh, absolutely. Give
Yeah, that
me,
would be great.
let me, oh, it's right here.
Yep,
I
perfect.
also got Diana Herrera in the chat, Mark.
Oh, okay, Diana. Let me put Diana on. Thank you. Diana. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. This should be good. So
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and spin. All right. Here we go. All right. Demita, you are our winner.
Congratulations, Demita.
Congratulations.
We'll send you an email offering up the tickets that we have on and asking for household information to mail those to you. So just be looking for that email tomorrow morning. And again, thank you everybody for coming. If you have additional questions, feel free to hang back or reach out to Mark or myself for anything Face University. And Esther for as our financial literacy expert. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.